Hey everyone, it's Robert at the Sampleist, and today we'll be checking out Cello One Volume 2 by Insanity Samples. Cello One Volume 2 is a reimagining and revamp of Volume 1. It is a flexible and very expressive library using a unique method of creating a more lifelike performance with a solo cello library. The developer said that it can create performances that ooze humanity in every note, using an overlaying system to deliver said performance, and it delivers. Cello One Volume 2 has 13 separate articulations. It was recorded in 4 mic positions and includes the option to have all mic positions in one fader. It includes up to 8 round robins based on the articulation, and scaling modes, as well as other features that we'll be getting into. Cello One Volume 2 is on sale for $58 US, with the full price being $115 US, with the final size being 3.17 gigabytes. And according to their page, this library will require the full version of Contact, with them listing versions 5, 6, 7, and above. However, I would suggest having the most recent version of Contact if possible, so that way you can use this library and any other libraries that come out. In this video, we'll be going through some of the presets of Cello One Volume 2, do an overview of the library, and a composition. We'll hear this flexible, intimate, and very, very great library in context. I'm looking forward to going through this with you, so let's get after it. Okay, so we have Cello One Volume 2 open, and I just want to get right into it. So, what you hear right now is what you get when you open this library. So it's going to be right out the box. At some point, I will add my external reverb so you can hear how it sounds with the reverb. For that, it's going to be Space Designer. So let's get right to it. Let's listen to the expressive longs, and something that you'll notice here. So we have this here expression that's connected to the mod wheel. You'll also see this up here, which aligns with the velocity. And we'll get further into that, but you'll notice when I start playing, the velocity will dictate what type of attack for this articulation will come up. So let's get right into it. I don't want to go too far into explaining it because then that goes into the UI part. So let's hear these expressive longs. Let me turn the true legato on first. Notice that the velocity was really, really low. The speed was really low of how I pressed the key, and that really changed the type of attack. And to me, that really adds to the realism of this library from the get-go. So let's keep playing a little more. I will turn True Legato off at some point to hear how it is with multiple notes pressed at the same time. Has a really cool sound to it. Next, let's check out the sforzando crescendos. And this one you also notice a difference when it comes to the attack. Some of these will not have that difference. So keep an ear open. Really cool. There's a lot of realism just with how the articulations change based on the velocity and such. I think that really adds some flexibility. They talked about this being a powerful engine. I think for me, it's an incredibly flexible engine, which to me is more important. I love something that has a lot of flexibility. Next, let's go to the ricochet crescendo. I think that's a really cool articulation, something you don't really hear much. Next, let's check out the staccatos. There is a big difference when you change the amount of velocity you put into the note here, which you would think would be the case with staccato, but that plus the mod will really can make it sound more, I mean, we can have more of a contrast, which is ideal. Next, we have something interesting here. We have the staccatissimo. And with this staccatissimo, there's something called the infinity mode, which helps with fast slurred passages and works well with the expressive longs. So let's just check it out. So it's really cool how that works. Like you could really just stick to one instrument with the true legato. You could turn it off, have chords, and still have the staccatissimo, or you could turn on the infinity mode so that way you can really dial in on those fast runs, which I think is insane. Absolutely insane. Next, the ricochet staccatos. Pretty cool. The coleños. The good old pizzicatos. The fact that this is pretty dry and intimate makes it sound so, I guess it has this cute sound to me at least, that's playful and really nice to listen to. The Bartok pits. So let's take a look at the slides up, which is really cool, and the slides down. So something cool with all that, if you notice, I changed what note you'd hear with the slide ups and the trills by adjusting the scale length. I'll get deeper into that later with the full UI, but I just figured I'd play that. Last is the tremolo. Really cool sounding. So next, let's just press performance 1. Now, we're going to sample this here, and I'm going to play through this a little bit, and you're going to hear all the different articulations that are on and have something attached here. Play. So let's do that. Wasn't the best improv because I'm not the best at improv, but you just heard me just play along the keyboard and play all these different articulations. So if I was able to really write it out and work on it, I would be writing a full passage that uses these things and goes seamlessly through this. I haven't seen an engine do something like this since, I guess, Cinesamples with some of their libraries that have this functionality. I haven't seen this in a long time. So I think this is awesome to see this. Keeps things alive and fresh. Performance 2 has some other stuff. Like, it's so sweet. This is so cool. Anywho, that does it for the articulations and whatnot for this. I wanted you to go through this and especially play these two performances just off the bat so you can see how that works. You will hear more of it in context in the composition. That is for sure. So next, we're going to go into the UI section. It's very cool. And also there's something in here that we're going to use to go through the UI together because I love what they did here. I haven't seen something like go as intuitive as this, so I'm excited. So let's take a look at the UI for Cello One Volume 2. And so let's do something different. I've studied this UI. I've been really trying to get it down in my head. And then I clicked here. And let me tell you, this is probably one of the best info screens I've seen for a sample library that goes through everything. That will tell you everything in detail. It's insane. So we have our general UI area here. We have all the articulations here that are also tied to key switches all the way on the right. There is also the expression bar over here. I guess I should say slider. Also, we have this grid here where you can assign the velocities to the different articulations. You also have this here, which is the infinity mode, which lets you play staccatissimo and the expressive long, so that you can have faster runs, better slurs, things like that. You could probably even try to do your own trill somehow if you want. Also, we have this down here. So we have like performance 1, performance 2. You can also save your own snapshots, which I plan on doing. We have the overlaying, which is very, very cool because it allows you to do all this. Sorry, pressing that when all I have to do is press this, turn that off. Now, if you put just key switching, then if you're married to doing key switches, which a lot of people seem to be, then you can just use key switches to go through each of these articulations as you're doing your performance. For me, I'm someone who isn't the biggest fan of key switches. So this overlay feature for me is really cool. Okay. So we have the true legato over here, which you can toggle on and off or press A0 or A sharp. Pretty cool. Anywho. And here you can choose the legato type, which is different here. We have the adaptive speed, the adaptive velocity, fixed fast, and fixed slow. For the adaptive part, you can have a slider, which you can adjust for the legato. If you don't have a slider, then you're better off using the fixed fast or fixed slow feature. Basically, the fixed fast will just have a faster transition. The fixed slow will be fixed to slow transitions. For me, I have the adaptive velocity, which will adjust what will be the fast or the slow transitions between notes, which you heard earlier. Also, when you're in adaptive speed mode, this connects to this, which is the speed threshold. Anything played quicker than the threshold, so I guess in this case under half a second, will get the fast transition. Anything played slower than this threshold will get the portamento-y, glissy type of transition. It's really cool. And then we have the velocity threshold, which is attached to the adaptive velocity. Basically, it's the same deal. However, because we have this matrix over here, you might need to use this switch. At this moment, it is set to be the same type of principle as the speed threshold. But if you press that, it's the opposite, which is probably going to be necessary if you have something like this and you want the velocity threshold to work in your favor and be more flexible. Also here we have the scale link, which you saw me use earlier, which ties the slides, trills, and whatnot to the type of scale that you have selected. So that way you can play in the key you want, which I think is really cool. And also you have this here, like I said, which will show you, which will talk about everything. Might explain things better than I can. Also, I really like how it has this graph here showing you where everything just lines up. I think that's really cool. To be honest, this is so straightforward and it's so like laid out to you. It's so user friendly that like these guys, they put so much thought into it. It blows my mind. Anywho, we have the mixer here. You have the mix signal here, and you could just adjust all these, or you can just have a mix of everything in here. You could just turn them all on, and get the sound you want. Just do whatever you think works best, and you can also pan them too, which is kind of cool. Last, but definitely not least, is the reverb, the delay, and the stereo, the width, and as well you can pan it. And I like how you could use the different reverbs. You have all the parameters here. So yeah, that's basically it for the UI. It's very easy, straightforward. Even the matrix part to me is really cool and straightforward. It's incredibly simple, to be honest. Something I forgot to mention. When you turn this all off and you just have the mix mic here, it lowers the RAM usage tremendously. Right now it's at 300, and I guess I'll round it up, 308 megabytes. With all of them on, it's 1.4 gigs. And without it, it's still around maybe 800 megabytes higher. So if you want to just have a mix of the mic positions, just try out the mix. It's really cool. Like, let me just play a little bit of it. So with just the mix microphone, you get such a really great sound with only a bit of RAM really being used. You get a great solo cello with all the articulations going for less than using the individual mic positions all on. I think that's a great thing to have in your template, very powerful thing to have and flexible. So that does it for this section. The next section will be the composition. I hope you like it. Alright, so I hope you like the track. It's more free-timey and just has its own organic pulse to it. Yeah, there's a grid, but it goes in and out of the grid. It goes outside of the lines a bit here. There's not that many tracks for this, and I have only 3 instances of Cello One, but it does a lot for this track. So let's get right into it. So for my shorts track, I have the staccato, staccatissimo, ricochet, sorry, and pizzicato on, but I'm only using the staccatissimo, the ricochet, and the pizzicato having it on. And if you'll notice, I didn't even really use the ricochet too much, if at all, because for this type of track, it didn't really need it. So the fact that I can go back and forth between these is really cool. So let's just hear some of it right now. Kind of like that. That's all velocity based for this part, because it would be crazy having to put key switches constantly for this. I think that's just so cool and organic. That's just beautiful. Something about that just makes it seem like it's an actual person in front of the microphone playing that part. So the next one are my chords. And for that, I have the expressive longs, which I'll be using a lot. I have slides up and slides down really in use. And for this, I just wanted to show how all that can work well and how it will all sound and whatnot. And the fact that you can go through these just with the velocity. You could really just change it in a dime. So let's go right into it and listen. Now that has such a really, really cool sound for the chords. And the fact you can have a bend upward and a bend downward really, really adds a really cool layer to this. It really adds a cool layer to this. That way it's not just stagnant chords. I really like how it adds a cool layer here, and the bending ups and downs just prevents it from being stagnant. So the next and last one is the main line. And you'll see that it uses the expressive longs, slide ups, and tremolo. Let's go right here. That is such a beautiful sounding cello. It all sounds so good. And the expressive longs with the slides. It's just a great pairing. And then with the tremolos, it adds this extra dynamic feel to it, this extra drama, some raw emotion, which I'll be using a lot. I think I'll save this as a preset for myself for future solo cello use. But yeah, that does it for this track. I hope you liked it. This is such a cool library with a lot of cool ways to use it. So my final thoughts for Cello One Volume 2 is that it really blows a lot of other cello libraries out of the water in terms of this realistic performance that you can ease into in terms of going through all the articulations very easily and organically. I don't really see libraries that achieve this, and I think that Insanity Samples really knocked it out the park. This is a great library for a great deal, if you ask me. Even if it's full price, I think this is a great value for the money, especially considering it's very detailed and has this dry sound that sounds so lush when put into good reverbs. You can't go wrong with something like this, if you ask me. If you want something dramatic yet cinematic that's in a cello library, this is, to me, gonna be very hard to beat. So yeah, that's it. Please like and subscribe to the Sampleist, and by all means, please comment below what you think of this library, the video, the composition, or anything. Tell me how you would use this library. Tell me what features you think are the best of this library and whatnot. I try to read all the comments and respond to them, so I'd be happy to see what you have to say. So yeah, that's it. Happy writing.